Hi, so now we're going to talk about assets, and this is really where you want to be spending your time. We've talked in the last few videos, we talked about generating income, we talked about controlling expenditures, and the reason we're doing that is to build a surplus of income, which will be our net profit, net income, so that we can move that into the assets. So we had income statement, we'll just put income statement there, and we got balance sheet. And so we got income, expenditure, profit. Profit's going to then go into assets. And so it's assets that is really where we are going to take ourselves onto the road to financial freedom. It's only by building our assets that we are going to achieve that. Because income could disappear, but your assets, if they're there, they can be working for you 24/7 and generating you income. So assets is where the bulk of our time needs to be spent. And there are three classes of assets, as we talked about before. There are paper assets, and we're going to talk about paper assets first. Paper assets, as I said in the last video, are the easiest to acquire. In other words, for just a few pounds, few dollars, you can start acquiring some assets. And there's different vehicles to do that. There's bonds, there's not trust funds, there's funds. There's all sorts of ways that you can do that. For a very, very small amount. And in fact, you can actually put money into there on a monthly basis and start building up that fund. So paper assets are definitely something that's very simple for you to get into, particularly if you haven't got a lot of extra money at that particular time. Then there are, I like to put businesses next. Now businesses have, I think, three stages in their evolution. There are businesses where the first part is, and let's put this as child, and then adult, and then retirement. Now, Michael Gerber, in a great book, which I really strongly recommend that you buy, and I'll put a link below this video to it, is called The E-Myth. And Michael Gerber says the whole reason for establishing and building a business is to sell the puppy, as he puts it. But why would you put all that effort in to sell it? And what he really means is that you basically want to be able to come out of that business if you so desire. So you have a business that you're not necessarily going to sell, but if you did sell it, there would be a buyer for it because it would work so well that it wouldn't need you to be there in order for it to work. So many businesses require the business owner to be there for it to work. So it's about systemization. One of the best examples, and he uses this, is McDonald's. McDonald's is a franchise system that is so well thought out and so well scripted that anybody could run a McDonald's franchise with a manual and going through the procedures. But essentially, it's I'm not saying it's an easy business to operate, but it's one that has got a value because it's entirely systemized and can work without the founder, who's no longer with us, of course, being present in each of the branches, which you wouldn't be able to do, of course. So, that's essentially this stage here, retirement. In other words, it doesn't require you personally to be in there. But of course, you can't start off there. So most start off, as I would say, the child. And the child is essentially when you start the business. It's what we would often hear being called one-man bands. Let's take somebody like a plumber who is working as an employee for another company, has done some side work for friends and been recommended by other friends, has built up a reasonable client list, and then takes the plunge to move from employment to starting their own business. And they're on their own, and so therefore they essentially have a job. they expand, they start to fill the number of hours in the day, they get to the point where they're at capacity, and now it's time to take other people on. And that's when they start to move into this stage of building the business and adults, so they then get employees. And then it's time, as they start to get more employees, for the business owner to then step back and start systemizing the business, so as that all the different functions of the business can operate without her or him being present in order to do that. And only then, when you've done that, do you have the retirement phase, which is a true business. In other words, something that is a saleable, genuine asset. Not only that, as it's there, it produces a profit. So it produces a profit that is far in excess of what you're earning. So as a plumber, they may earn, let's say, 40,000 a year. And so they got 40,000 a year, but the business earns far in excess of the 40,000 a year. And in fact, they can afford to put a manager in at 40,000 a year to run the business and still benefit greatly because of the profit that's going to come out of that business. So they can almost walk away from it, and they can have that income continuing to come in. And that is a true asset in terms of a business. Until it reaches this retirement stage, it's not really a true business in terms of assets. And then the third is property. And property is a place to sort of park your money. It can be investment properties. Now in the UK, residential investment property is becoming a very difficult market to be in because of tax legislation that's changed and the way that they tax them, so it's a very difficult market. It's become, but people get sort of like blinkered and think, well, that's the only market there is. Property is all around you. It's everything. There's commercial property. There's offices. There's there are parks. When I say parks, I'm talking about like industrial parks. Retail, obviously, becoming a bit more difficult. So maybe that's an area that you would stay away from. There's house building, which happens to be my business. So house building, because we need lots of houses, and we'll always need houses, so the new build is an area that you can be involved in. There's so much. You just gotta look around you and see property. So if you even discount the whole residential buy-to-let, as we call it in the UK, or property investment, because that's become a much more difficult market, not necessarily difficult in other areas of the world, but that's become a more difficult market for us. There are so many other opportunities. So you just have to look around and say, what's the opportunity there when you look at different types of property. So property, very much an asset. And one of the benefits of property is that you can leverage it. In other words, you can take a certain amount of money and you can actually buy more property than the money that you have. So you might have, let's say, 25,000, and which you might be able to buy a property that's worth 100,000. So and you have to be careful with leveraging, that you don't over leverage, because any sort of like downturn in the market, you might end up owning less of the property or zero of the property because the values drop. So you have to be very careful in your leveraging, or gearing as they call it, with property. So that's broadly talking about assets. Again, in future videos, we're going to delve much more into those, and in terms of, you know, how you start a business, all the different things to think about, how you would start looking at property, how you start looking at stocks and shares. So we're going to talk a bit more in depth of that, but this is about just really having this broad understanding, so as that when you finish watching this series of videos, you can go away and actually construct your own income statement, profit and loss account, your own balance sheet, to have a starting position for where you are right now. So in the next video, we're going to talk about the negative, the liabilities. So we're going to talk about that in the next videos. In the meantime, please like and share. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Hit the notification bell so that you are aware of when new videos are being published. And most importantly, put your comments down below and let's have a conversation. Look forward to speaking to you on the next video, which is going to be about liabilities. Speak to you then. Thank you for watching, and please like and share with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell to be notified of future videos.